Yeah, hello everyone. Today we are going to take a step ahead with the marketing role and the strategy's role in marketing analysis. So, what the role of marketing is, what the role of sales is in the business, what is the strategic role of it's in the business, how the market analysis is being performed. To take it further, we need to understand what is market analysis. So, market analysis in a nutshell is a qualitative and quantitative evaluation of the external as well as internal forces of the market, external as well as internal resources of the market, external market conditions as well as the internal market conditions of the company. Throughout, market analysis adequately assess opportunities, value, customers, opportunities, risks, purchasing behavior, competition, economic entry barriers, regulations, and all the qualitative as well as quantitative arenas which directly or indirectly affect the business and its performance. Let's understand three major market analysis reasons why it is so important. Well, in business, whenever we are doing anything, we need to understand its importance. We need to understand how we need to perform any kind of analysis, what its short term as well as long term impact on the business would be. So let's understand when we are talking about strategic marketing study or when we are talking about formulating the strategic management strategy to excel the business or to run the business campaign or to create the positioning of a company in the market to enhance the brand value of the product in the market, we need to understand or we need to exactly assess how are we going to run our marketing campaign, how are we looking forward to position our company or its brand value in the market, how we are going to provide the analytical insight of how our company or products are going to perform in front of our consumers, what the brand barriers would be, what the obstacles would be for the company, how the company is going to assess the progression, how the company is going to take a step ahead. So, when we are talking about understanding the reasons, first comes market analysis is to put your customer first. As in hospitality industry, it has all often been talked about that customer is the key, or in hospitality industry, customer is the king. Customer is the person who is always supposed to be kept in center. So when we are talking about keeping the customer in center or going ahead with the customer centric approach, that is where we are talking about hiring such people or hiring such kind of staff who is going to accommodate himself with the differentiative needs of the customer. So when we are talking about customer needs and which is going to be dynamic in nature, we need to have people with that kind of mindset wherein they can assess the customer need and being able to provide what customer want. So technically we are trying to understand customer or people who are going to be part of the company, they are going to invest some amount in the company to consume its services, consume its products. So often it is a problem when we are sending our product or services in the competition, when we are sending our product in the market, that is where we are exposing ourselves in the real time competitive scenario where the competition can take us on toss. So we need to understand what kind of people who are going to work with us, who can always understand how the customer is at the first priority. Customer is kept as a first differentiative priority in the company, and the products and service are going to be served keeping in mind their convenience. Then comes market analysis forces, which companies need to look forward for. Whenever we are talking about market analysis forces, it has a lot to do with the competition. It has a lot to do with how company is going to look inward and how company is going to introspect, how company is going to assess the SWOT analysis, that why would consumer will come to us. So before understanding why consumer will come to us, we need to understand what consumer wants. What great are we going to do, or what great we are going to offer to the consumer which will help his buying decision, or which is going to convince him for his buying decision. How we are going to beautifully design our product, or how we are simply going to design the usability of that product, how we are going to make it so user friendly that customer wants to buy our product. So we need to empathize, we need to self actualize, we need to create the right vision for our company, where we need to assess what consumer want. This analysis is often being taken care by empathizing, by taking your foot in the shoe of a customer, by understanding the real time feel, how the market forces are going to consider that how your customer, how or your product is going to perform in the consumer feel, at what degree it is going to make consumer feel elevated to have a repeat buying decision, or to drive the first purchase decision of your product. So whenever we are talking about market analysis, it is a point of introspection where we try to assess what consumer want. So principally, it is very, very important for every company to have a SWOT analysis, where we are trying to understand the strength areas, and we are trying to understand the market forces, keeping in mind the competition and degree of competition in the market. We need to understand the driving forces for the purchase decision. So our marketing campaigns need to be made accordingly, so that we can convince the customer with the real time SWOT strength analysis of real time USP of our company, which has to be based on the consumer need. Then comes the market analysis, how it helps determining your unique sales proposition. Whenever we are talking about identifying what customer wants, or whenever we are talking about the SWOT analysis of our product, it is basically we are trying to understand what is the USP of our product going to be look like. USP, as we all know, USP has a lot to do with the unique selling proposition. Unique selling proposition means one X factor of your company, of your brand, maybe of your product or your services, or maybe of your price, or maybe some connect which you're trying to create with the audience's difference, depending upon the socio cultural background they may have, or the type of communication you are going to use, or the history or background of your product and services you are going to use to convince a customer to consume your product. So your USP has to be something so unique which is going to give you differentiation, or which is going to give you distinction or edge over your competition. So it is not always semantically agreed upon, like how you are going to be entirely different. It is going to be talking about certain methods which will make you differentiate your target audience, which are going to differentiate the kind of benefits you are going to give to your customers, your main differentiator factors, your point of sale, your point of purchase, your business strategy, your sales strategy, your market campaigns, to help the consumer feel himself connect to the company, to convince the competition that you are here to stay, to have a right goodwill or brand communication in the market. So, USP has a lot to do with understanding a lot about you, what you as a company is, what your brand strategy is. So, in brand, whenever we are talking about companies, how they differentiate themselves by any other brand who would be there in the competition, it has a lot to do with the branding strategy or the communication, or any strategy which seeks to resonate with the people who the target audiences are, so that they can turn out to be common purchase for your very product. So basically getting yourself associated with the customer, making the customer convince about your product, is brand or branding all about. Then product has a lot to do with, let's say, The example of BMW, which is always considered to be an epic example in this case. BMW stepped into a market with a slogan which talks about ultimate driving machine. So here they were trying to be, they were trying to exceed the market, or they were trying to communicate in the market that they are thriving on excellence. So whenever we are going to launch a product, we need to understand a very different thing what customer want in his mind regarding the consumption of that very product. Is it an experience? Is it an expertise? Is it a hospitality? Is it the service? Is it the price? Is it the goodwill a person is going to associate himself with? Then comes service. In hospitality sector, service plays very important role. Rather, it is a differentiative factor in the hospitality industry. Because when we are talking about hospitality sector industry being so customer centric, that is where we are talking about service kept as a prima facie, where customer is going to be inquiring on emails, social media, or on any online platform how responsive you are, how much thriving you are to serve your customer, how much you're looking forward to create an outstanding experience for your customer. Then only the customer will come to you. Then comes the price factor. Price factor has a lot to do with the price for which you're going to offer your product. Often, affordability is compared with it being cheap, or often expensive is compared being it being not affordable. So I believe affordability and being expensive has a lot to do with the right curve of the demand and supply and the presence of that very product in the market in the competition. So you need to have a thorough understanding about the pricing policy of your competitor who is offering the same product, which is thriving on probably the same pedagogy your company is launching your product on. So price factor doesn't just have to do with it being affordable or expensive, but yet it has to be pocket friendly. You have to create a certain message for the consumer wherein customer would be looking forward to assess that opportunity to save some money, wherein looking forward to create some good experience while consuming that very product or service. So technically it needs to be affordable so that it is in the reach of a pocket. Then comes audiences. Audiences has a lot to do with the people who are going to consume your product. What is your company's communication with the people who are going to consume it? Have you religiously or thoroughly, specifically, created a survey wherein you have identified what group or what type of person who is going to use your product? What is the demographic profile? What is the segmentation of your audiences? Then only you can design a real time communication or real time marketing strategy. So fundamentally, whenever we are trying about creating a marketing strategy or strategic marketing for our company, we have to assess a lot of things. Like we need to know what our product is, what at what price it is going to be launched on, who our customer is. At the end of the day, it has a lot to do with the real time market mix. Right product at the right place at the right time, the right price for the right people who is going to consume it for the right purpose. And of course, there are so many strategies companies these days adapt so that the consumer is finding the product being pocket friendly. So one very popular strategy often not adopted by a lot of companies across the globe is pricing warfare. Pricing warfare is where companies tries to step into a price war with its competition at the same place, at the same arena, with the type of different strategies of product line. So in hospitality, since this industry allows you for a lot of customization, price war is the most common strategy usually companies get into. So whenever we are talking about price wars, it has a lot to do with the with understanding the dynamism, or understanding how much you're going to stake at the time of getting into price war. You need to understand what are the pricing spirals would be. You need to understand, are you getting into any kind of self-destructive behavior wherein you, to fetch the business, you are not realizing you are losing more than obtaining a profit. So in the long term, you need to understand it is a profitability and win-win situation. To get into this kind of warfare strategy, any company needs to have a very, very thorough foresee of the market forces, the financial performances, the interruptions company is going to uh, overcome, or company need to often find themselves what the traps would be, or what the business traps would be in the longer run, how profits are going to be narrowed down, how weak the competitor will make you, or how it will be difficult for you to stay in the competition. Working on a very, very narrow profit margins is considered to be a weak strategy to stay in a competition for a longer run. So, the common view in economics is, or the strategy is, having a right balance, understanding the right ability to sustain in the ever changing environment of the business, analyzing the upgradation of skills, upgradation of the real time knowledge of the market data, identifying the real time trends and opportunities. So, whenever we are trying to assess the trends and opportunities, or we are trying to understand or implement the organizational changes across the value chain in the company, that is where we identify what factors are going to provoke any new thinking in the organization, or what strategic capabilities or skills can help you relatively make yourself more stronger on a cost position, so that if any thing, any case is provoking any new thinking in the organization where your company is getting influenced to be part of price war, that is where your company can sustain at a long run. So here, for any company, it is important to understand. So here we are going to understand the long time sustenance ability to stay in market, being able to affirm your needs, being able to understand what your company wants in the long run. Before getting into a price war, it is very important to pick your battlefield. Battlefield has a lot to do with staying alert and being aware of the market trends, being aware of the technological advancements, being able to have a mature and commoditized thinking towards the analytical capabilities what you can have to develop new strategies. And you need to conserve the resources so that you can pick up the right battlefield, and you can understand how can you cut the prices by understanding the real geography, or getting into the target specific customer segmentation for your product, where you can avoid direct confrontations with cost leaders, how you can be how you're able to cut prices after understanding that, after being able to narrow down the margins, you'll be able to sustain for a long run. So fundamentally, it has a lot to do with the organizational changes from top to bottom. Cost cutting is in a short term, in a short term strategy, price warfare may yield you good results, but price warfare branding strategy, when run through the corporate level or run through all channels or distribution channels in the organization, you have to have a thorough understanding of your target market. Until unless you don't know what you're emphasizing on, what your label size is, what your product size is, what margins are you sitting on, and after the real time changes, as the competition who is going to be very, very vulnerable to you, and the market forces who are going to be very dynamic. So you need to understand how you can keep your company stay under the very, very consistent radar, where the price reproduction policies are being taken care of. There is always an investment which is going on to rebuilding the price image of the company, because often we have felt or often we have studied that price warfare competition strategy take the company reputation down in the market, because cheap product is often considered not very productive or not very valued. Price has a lot to do with it being premium. So when we are talking about it being premium, we need to align the revenues with cost structure, and we need to have a real time support in making sure that our pricing decisions are aligned with the cost structures of the broader value chain we have within the company. How we should know to protect the gross margins, how we can improve on the operational effectiveness of a company, how we can have a management's view in rebuilding the market share and winning back the customer while restructuring the business. Because business you will often feel there is a retention of customers, there's an attrition of a customer. You need to continue having the strategies to lower the attrition rate. You need to often soften the strategy to bring your customer back. You need to be very very innovative to bring in real time additional value to your customer. And you need to identify a lot of decisions where policies are there to pursue and mentor the effectiveness of your product. So price war in the end has nothing to do with demonstrating or be resilient about your company's price, because for whenever you have launched your product with the right price strategy, you must have had a thorough knowledge, a thorough survey about the competition, about your rivals, about the suppliers. You must have kept the valuable price concessions, so that you must have been able to look forward to stay in business for a longer run. But since you have chose to be part of the warfare strategy, that is where you have to have a larger picture in hand. You need to have a right piece of forecast in front of you. You need to have the right vision so that you can keep on increasing or keep on hopping on the ways to increase the efficiencies and reduce cost in your organization, so your price war strategy can flow in full swing and you don't really have to look back, and you don't really have to fall apart in your brand strategies.